Once upon a time, there lived a young woman named Grace. She was calm, gentle, and soft-spoken. She was the kind of person whose presence alone could make a tense room feel a little lighter. Before she left her small room that morning to go for the nanny job she had recently applied for, she knelt down and prayed a simple prayer. Lord, let this home be a blessing to me, and let me be a blessing to them too. She had no idea how deep that prayer would go. When she arrived at the Adeyemi's house for the first time, she noticed something immediately. The house looked very beautiful. Fine curtains, neat chairs, big television, children's toys arranged in baskets. Everything looked perfect, but something inside the house did not feel okay. It felt heavy. The Adeyemi family looked like people who smiled outside for the world to see, but when they got back home, they cried like everything had collapsed on them. Mrs. Tolu Adeyemi welcomed her in. She was elegant and well-dressed, but her eyes told a different story. They were red and tired, as if sleep had been running away from her for a long time. "Good morning, ma," Grace greeted softly. "Good morning," Tolu replied, trying to sound normal. "Please, come in and sit." The three children noticed Grace immediately. Little Dara, the last born, ran to the door and peeped from behind her mother. Femi, the second child, stood with folded arms studying her, while Bisi, the eldest, looked curious but quiet. Grace smiled and knelt down to their level. "Good morning," she said gently. "My name is Grace. What are your names?" Dara didn't wait. "My name is Dara. Are you the auntie that will stay with us?" Grace laughed softly. "Well, if mommy agrees, yes." Then something happened at that moment. The children felt relaxed. They moved closer to her as if they had found someone safe without even thinking about it. As Tolu watched them, something shifted inside her chest. For the first time in a long while, she felt a small piece of relief. The interview was conducted, and Tolu watched how Grace spoke calmly with simple words. "I love children," she said. "I understand that every child is different. Some children need somebody to talk with. Some need more patience, while some just need someone to sit with them." Tolu listened quietly as every sentence she heard sounded like water on dry ground. "Have you worked in a home before?" she asked. "Yes, ma," Grace responded, "but the family relocated. I'm looking for a place where I can serve and stay long term. I don't like jumping from house to house." Tolu watched the way Grace talked. There was no pride, no fake accent. She was just being sincere. At one point, baby Dara coughed and almost choked on her own saliva. But before Tolu could jump from her chair, Grace had already lifted her, patted her back gently and soothed her. "It's okay. It was just a small choke," she said, smiling at Dara. The baby stopped crying and rested her head on Grace's shoulder like she had known her for years. That was the moment Tolu made up her mind. "Grace," she said softly, "you are hired." From that day, Grace became part of the Adeyemi household. She woke up early, bathed the children, packed their lunch, helped with homework, and kept the house in order. She worked quietly, without complaining or making noise about what she was doing. Very soon, the children adored her as each of them sought her attention. "Mommy, I want Auntie Grace to bath me," Dara would say. "Auntie Grace, please check my assignment," Bisi would call. Even Femi, who was normally stubborn, became gentle around her. But as the days passed, Grace began to see what she felt on the first day she came. The marriage between Mr. and Mrs. Adeyemi was not okay. Every evening, Mr. Kunle Adeyemi came back from work with his face hard like stone. He barely greeted anyone. Sometimes he would walk past his wife without even noticing her. "Welcome," Tolu would say quietly. But no answer. Kunle would drop his bag, remove his shoes, and go straight to the bedroom, or rather, to the bathroom. If the children tried to run and hug him, he would say, "Later, later, I'm tired," without even touching their heads. Grace watched the way the children became stiff whenever they heard his footsteps. They respected him, but their respect had fear inside it. At night, when the children slept, the house was not really at rest. Sometimes, as Grace passed the master bedroom to go and get water from the kitchen, she heard quiet sniffing. It went on and on until one night she stopped and listened properly. It was Tolu, her madam. She was crying softly and trying to cover her mouth so nobody would hear. Grace stood by the door for a few seconds. Her heart was heavy. She wanted to knock, but she also didn't want to invade her madam's privacy. So she whispered a small prayer. God, please, comfort her. Give her strength. The same pattern continued. Every day, the wall between husband and wife grew higher. Kunle spent more time on his phone than with his family. He went outside often to take calls, and whenever he was talking on the phone, his voice would become low and tense. One evening, Grace was in the corridor when she heard him outside, talking in the corner of the compound. She did not mean to eavesdrop, but his words carried through the open window. I'm handling it, he said in a shaky whisper. She must not find out the truth. If she knows, everything will scatter. Grace froze. Her heart beat faster. Who was he talking about? Who must not find out? And what was the truth that could scatter everything? She stayed very still until the call ended. When he came inside, his face looked more restless than before. He snapped at the children. He shouted at Tolu because the remote control was not where he wanted it to be. Why can't this house be in order? He barked. Grace wanted to say something, but she kept quiet. She was not the wife. She was just a nanny, but her spirit was not blind. Things became worse. Kunle started snapping at Grace too. Why are the kids still awake? Why did you serve this food like this? Why is your phone in your hand? One day, without warning, Kunle grabbed her phone from her. Grace was shocked. Her phone was her small world. She received messages from her sister. Her friends from her church always called to check up on her. The phone also had her savings app installed. Sir, why did you take my phone? She asked softly. He didn't answer. He just kept scrolling through her chats, her gallery, her call log, like a man searching for something specific. Grace stood there, feeling exposed and confused. What was he looking for? What was his suspicion? Was he trying to get evidence that never existed? After some minutes, he finally gave it back to her, without apology, and walked away. But for the first time, she saw his hand trembling slightly. That day, she realized something. This man was not just angry. He was afraid of something. Not long after that evening, another late-night phone call came. Grace was in the kitchen washing plates when she heard his voice again. This time, he sounded even more desperate. I told you I'm working on it, he said. Don't come to my house. She must not find out. I beg you. She leaned on the sink and listened to the tone, but not the full words. Whatever he was hiding was choking him, and whatever it was already affecting everyone in the house. Days turned into weeks, and everything built up slowly like dark clouds before heavy rain. The storm finally came up one night. It started like a normal evening. The children had eaten. They had done their homework and were watching cartoons on the TV while the generator was on. Grace had bet Dara and laid her to sleep. Bisi and Femi followed suit and went to sleep too. Then the house felt unusually calm, like an iced water. Grace was in her small room folding clothes when she heard Tolu's voice from the sitting room. It was not loud at first, but there was pain in her tone. Kunle, what is happening to you? She asked. Why are you treating me this way? What did I do to you? Then his voice followed, sharper. Leave me, Tolu. You don't understand anything. Stop asking me questions. Grace came out quietly and stood near the corridor, holding onto the wall. She saw Tolu standing by the dining table, eyes wet, wrapper loose around her waist. I'm your wife and not your enemy, she said, her voice shaking. Talk to me. Stop disturbing me, Kunle shouted, picking his car keys. If you want to talk, follow me. Let's drive out and talk in the car. I don't want neighbors to hear. He grabbed her arms. Gracie's heart jumped. The way he held her, the speed in his movement, the anger in his breathing, something didn't feel right. Tolu looked back at the children, then at Grace. I'll be fine, she said quickly. Just looked after them till we come back. Before Grace could say anything, the door had already closed behind them. The compound gate opened. The car engine started. The tires screeched as they drove out. Later that night, the children woke up frightened. Auntie Grace, where is Mommy? Dara asked, rubbing her eyes. She went out with Daddy, Grace said calmly, even though she was not feeling comfortable. They'll be back soon. She gathered them close, made them sit on the bed and prayed quietly with them. God protect my madam and her husband. Bring them back home safely. Minutes later, she heard Tolu's phone ring from the dining table. She rushed to pick it. Hello? She answered, breathless. Good evening, a male voice said. Please, are you a relative of Mr. and Mrs. Adeyemi? Yes, Grace replied, her knees already feeling weak. There has been an accident. She gasped. They are at the hospital. The husband is conscious while the wife is in the emergency room. For a moment, Grace could not speak. Her tongue felt heavy. Her world felt like it was spinning. Okay, I'm coming, she managed to whisper. She woke the gate man, wrapped the children properly and rushed them out. Her legs were shaking as they entered the cab. She prayed silently all the way to the hospital. When they reached, she saw Kunle sitting on a bench outside the emergency ward. His elbows were on his knees. His hands were on his head. His shoulders were shaking. He looked up when he heard the children calling Daddy. His face was not the face of an angry man that night, but he looked like someone who had just seen his life flash before his eyes. He hugged his children tightly, like he was afraid they would disappear at the moment. Grace stood a little aside, watching him quietly. For the first time since she came to the house, she saw a man who was afraid, filled with guilt, and had something broken inside him. After several hours, the doctor finally came out and said Tolu would survive. She had injuries and needed rest, but her life was out of danger. Kunle covered his face and cried, like the helpless cry of someone who knew he had gone too far. Later, when the children had slept on the bench and Grace was sitting quietly near them, Kunle called her in a low voice. Grace, he said, not looking at her. I'm sorry for how I've been behaving. She shook her head gently. Sir, this should not be about me. Kunle swallowed. I almost lost my wife, he whispered, because I was too proud to tell her the truth. Grace waited in silence. He took a deep breath and began to speak. He told her everything. How he had gone deep into secret debt, trying to multiply money quickly. How he had borrowed money from people he should never have borrowed from. How deadlines passed and he couldn't pay, and how they started threatening him. That was the major reason they called him at odd hours, sent him messages. They warned him, monitored and followed him with their eyes. He became a living shadow of himself. Every time his phone rang, his heart jumped. Every knock on the gate sounded like danger. Every new person that entered the house felt like a potential threat. He didn't want his wife to know. He didn't want her to see him as a failure. He thought if he carried the burden alone, he was protecting his family. But instead, his fear turned into anger, and his anger turned into punishment. He punished his wife with silence. He punished the children with distance. He punished Grace with suspicion. I thought you might be connected to them, he said quietly. When you came into the house and the pressure increased, I started suspecting everyone. Grace's eyes filled with tears. So that was why he grabbed her phone to check, and the reason he was always restless to the extent that he snapped over little things. His bad behavior did not excuse the hurt. But now she saw the full picture and understood. "Sir," she said softly, "fear can turn a good man into a stranger. But you can't bear this burden alone. Your wife deserves to know. This is her life too." He wiped his face. "I know," he whispered. "I will tell her when she wakes up. I'm tired of hiding." When they went back home the next morning, the atmosphere was still heavy, but something had shifted. The pretense had cracked. The truth was finally on the table, even if only between the two of them for now. Over the next few days and weeks, Grace became more than a nanny. She became a bridge. She encouraged the children to pray for their father instead of being afraid of him. She sat with Tolu when she finally returned home, helping her move slowly, listening to her frustration, and letting her cry when she needed to. One night, as they were talking, Tolu said, "Grace, I don't even recognize my husband anymore." Grace replied gently, "Ma, sometimes when a man is fighting a battle, he becomes someone else. But if there is still a small part of the man you married, God can bring him back." She also encouraged Kunle to open up gradually to his wife, not in one long speech, but in honest pieces. Little by little, he started talking. He apologized to the children. He hugged and played with them more. When he comes back from work, after dinner, he spent more time with his family in the sitting room instead of locking up in the bedroom. He listened when Tolu spoke, even when she spoke through tears. There were still arguments. There were still days when the old attitude tried to come back. But this time, the truth was no longer hiding in the dark. Slowly, the house began to feel different. The happiness returned in small drops. The children started running to their father again without fear. Tolu became stronger, not just as a wife, but as a woman who now understood what her home had survived. One Friday evening, some months later, Grace was in the kitchen washing plates when she heard her name. "Auntie Grace," the children called. "Daddy is calling you." She wiped her hands and came to the sitting room. The whole family was seated. Kunle, Tolu, and the three children. There was a small gift box on the table and a brown envelope. Grace stood, suddenly shy. "Sir, Ma," she said, looking from one to the other. "Sit down, Grace," Tolu said with a warm smile. Grace sat slowly at the edge of the sofa. Kunle cleared his throat. "Grace," he began, "when you came into our home, we thought we hired a nanny, someone to assist my wife with the chores at home. We did not know God was sending us a helper." Tolu nodded, her eyes already wet. "You saw what we could not see," she added. "You carried the children when we were too stressed. You listened to me when I felt invisible. You spoke the truth to my husband when he was running away from it. And you prayed for us, even when you could have judged us." Kunle pushed the envelope towards her. "This is a token," he said. "A bonus for all the days you went beyond your work." She opened it with trembling hands. It was money, more than she had ever held in her life at once. Her eyes widened. "Sir, Ma, this is too much," she whispered. Tolu smiled. "We haven't finished." She handed her the box. Grace opened it slowly. Inside was a printed letter. She unfolded it and began to read. Her lips trembled as she realized what it was. Her school admission letter. Paid in full. Accommodation provided. Allowance covered. Kunle spoke again, his voice thick with emotion. "You put your life and heart into this family. You stayed when things were dark. You protected our children. You saved my wife. You even saved me from losing myself. Let us help secure your future." Tolu held her hand. "Go back to school, Grace. Become everything God wants you to be. Let this house be part of your testimony too." Tears poured down from Grace's face. She tried to talk, but the words refused to come. Finally, she managed to whisper, "Thank you. Thank you so much. God bless you." I don't even know what to say. Little Dara climbed onto her lap. "Auntie Grace, will you leave us?" she asked sadly. Grace hugged her tightly. "I will always be part of this family," she said softly, "even if I'm not here every day." That night, after everyone had gone to bed and the compound was quiet, Grace knelt down in her small room once again. This time, her prayer was different. "Lord," she said with a shaking voice, "thank you. I asked you to let this home be a blessing to me, and let me be a blessing to them too. You answered both." In that quiet moment, one truth became very clear. Not every angel has wings. The story of Grace reminds us that some individuals just walk into a home calmly, wearing simple clothes, carrying a soft voice and a strong spirit, and they save a family without even knowing how powerful they are. Dear friends, what lessons did you take away from this story? Share your thoughts with me in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this story, give it a like, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe to my channel if you have not done so by now. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next captivating story. Thank you for watching, and remember, every tale carries a lesson if only we choose to listen. Until I bring another true life tale your way, goodbye and remain blessed.